So yeah, these are some, I want to give some real world examples of publishers and publishing deals. Now we had a question from the audience. What's your name?
My name is Zakisha.
Zakisha. And what do you do in the way of art?
I'm a female MC.
Okay, great, great. And what was your question?
Our question was about the writer share and the publisher share.
Yeah.
So for example, we use R. Kelly. So with Ronald Kelly, like he uses government name for the writer share,
Yeah.
and then the publisher share, he do R. Kelly, so he can be his own writer and publisher.
Well, he probably has a publisher, or he definitely has a publisher, whether it's Sony or Warner. They will, so if you're looking at the split of the song being two different sides, one side will say Warner, one side will say Robert Kelly. And then, but when you look at it as artist, songwriter, then it will say Robert Kelly, R. Kelly. So it basically goes those three things. It goes from publisher to songwriter to artist. And so that's why when you look at a CD and you'll see in brackets, you'll usually see the person's government name. You'll see like Alicia Keys, and then in brackets it will say A Keys, or it will say another songwriter that was on it, or Aubrey Drake, or what is it, Aubrey Graham, isn't it? Drake's name, something like that. We'll find out in a second. So I'm going to go on the ASCAP database. ASCAP is the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. They are a performance rights organization. Their job, and I'll get into PROs in a second, but their job is to basically track music that's played publicly. So be that on radio, if it's performed at a stadium or a festival, or if somebody's covering it. So they also cover YouTube views as well. And I'm going to search that song here.
Does SoCan do YouTube?
Yeah, so what I wanted to get into during PROs was this is one of 3 American versions of SoCan. It's just America's big enough to have 3. Okay, so in the ASCAP ACE search, which is basically their copyright search section, so these guys wrote a song and they've created a copyright, they've created a song, they've wrote it, they haven't recorded it yet maybe, they've just got the beat idea and they've got the lyrics idea, but it constitutes a song, they can perform it live or whatever. They've listed 3 people who are on the song. Now, only 2 of them are with ASCAP, so we have some more information on them. But basically we have Noah James Shehab, which we said it was going to be 40 on the beat. Aubrey Drake Graham, which is Drake, and Michael Coleman. And so if we go into, and basically the publisher who's taking care of this song, the person who's responsible for going to get the rights, responsible for getting this music into film and TV, or if it's in film and TV, going to get that money, is a publishing company called Roncesvalles Music Publishing, which is probably Drake's publishing company, because Roncesvalles is a place downtown, and because it's such a Toronto song and it's a Toronto publisher, I could almost bet you that they're involved. So so that publishing company is under a bigger publisher called Cobalt Songs Music Publishing, and Cobalt is another independent music publisher in the States. And so on the publisher side, these guys will be going to collect that money. Drake. Now, what's cool about this site is if you click on Drake, then it will show you all the other works that he's involved with. You click on Best I Ever Had, and it shows you who's involved in the song: Dwayne Carter, Nakia Coleman, Aubrey Drake, Matthew Samuels, Danny Robert Hamilton. It will show you who's involved in the song,
and
which publishers are involved. So this is Sony ATV, Dimension, and has a couple other publishers listed. So
is that info only lyrics, or is it music as well?
Well, the thing is that what's hard in hip hop to wrap your head around is like the beat maker is a songwriter, right? It doesn't look that way because he's programmed everything and he's not playing an instrument, or she's not playing an instrument.
That's creating the melodies.
But they created half the song, because the song without a beat is just lyrics. So you might as well equate making a beat to playing the piano behind something. So somebody writes the piano track, the other person writes the lyrics, they've both created that copyright, that song. They've done it 50-50 or whatever, whatever their deal is.
So the beat in SoCan you divide it as composer and then as author, right? The composer would be the beat maker and the author would be the person that wrote the song. No?
Yeah, they have that composer-author thing in SoCan, but it's a little bit confusing because it's not as straightforward as beat maker, writer. And mostly the reason that they have composer there is for classical music. And so when they talk, is because they're actually composing the music and then somebody's transcribing it onto sheet music to be played by a trumpet player, to be played by a cellist or a violinist, to be played as classical music. And that's why they have the distinction there in the final song. So to give you an idea, to get back to what I thought was going to be listed on this site, which is listed on the it's listed on the UK site, but they've just recently taken away my EMI privileges after 2 years of getting into that site. But is the percentages that each one of these people have. So right now, it's just listed that there are 5 writers on the track, but I bet you that Drake gets 50% of this song. Mostly because he's Drake, but also because he probably wrote the lyrics and the hook, and the other people were involved in the beat, they're going to get the other 50%.
What about the publishing company?
And so so again, if we remember,
We get 50%.
we're talking
Wow.
about
That's sick.
yeah. So we go back to this, and all those 5 writers split up the writer's share, and then the publishing company splits up the publisher's share. So there might be 2 publishers involved. There might only be 1 publisher involved, but they split it up. They split up this second half. So that's a good question. It actually puts it in perspective of what we're talking to.
So if Drake gets the 50% on one half, and then so about the other 50, the publisher and the writer.
No. So you got to look at this as 100
Yeah.
and 100.
Yeah.
So Drake gets 50% of this 100, and then the other writers get the other. They split up
All
at
the 50.
10% apiece or whatever, and then a whole other half of the song, the publisher's side, is then split up by the publishers.
It's 100 though.
It's 100. It's 100 over here and 100 over here.
But it's
Oh,
just,
really?
oh, okay.
And
So how come you have it like that in 50?
because I'm just showing you that there are 2 parts of a song.
You gotta
Oh.
see it like a cake, right?
Yeah.
You have a whole cake. One side of the cake goes to the publisher, and then everybody's got it. Okay, so that side, forget about that side.
It's
Now
gone.
now you got this cake, and that's like now you gotta split
Now
it.
you gotta split that up.
So
Okay.
that's like 200% then.
Well, basically, it's if you show it as a cake, basically when the song comes in, this part's gone. Now, as songwriters, you split this up.
Yeah.
Now, once you bring in
How do you
publishers,
do?
then you bring
But you
that
have
the
to
other
do
half.
a deal with the actual artist to become their publisher, right?
with the actual songwriter.
Yeah.
So to become a publisher, everyone's there, and that's where it gets confusing. Is because initially
Nobody-
you are your own publisher.
But what I'm saying is like, nobody can just say, okay, I'm gonna be the publisher for Started from the Bottom and just start.
No. So basically,
They gotta do a contract with them
this,
now.
yeah. So this publisher share, or this publisher's right, is so say Drake wrote the whole song, and he's got this whole other half. He's got this whole half to himself. He owns this half. Before anybody comes in, it's his right. Now, because he doesn't want to do all this stuff, all the administration and collection, because he wants to just make songs, and he doesn't want to be sitting in there learning about that sort of thing, he says, okay, you guys go get my money, and I'll give you this half of the song. You guys go get the other half for me. You guys go do all that stuff. And you go into film and TV, and if it gets into film and TV, you guys collect on it. So, to get back to this, to what a real world publishing deal is, it used to be 50-50. And all those Motown songs you hear, heard it from the grapevine and all that stuff, they used to just walk in and lose half their song. And it was great for people like Berry Gordy, because he'd just rake in all the cash, and Stevie Wonder doesn't know what's going on. And they're just like, okay, I'm taking your money, right? But as people got more aware, and they realized that, hey look, I'm doing a little bit of exploitation myself. I'm like, you know, starting from the bottom, I'm putting out the video, I'm promoting it, I'm promoting the song on radio. You guys aren't doing 50% of the work here. You guys don't deserve 50% of the pie. And so over time, the deals came down, and basically instead of being 50-50, now they're more 50, which is the writer's share, and then the writer themselves, this is where it gets confusing, will actually split this half as well. So they'll be their own publisher, or what's called a co-publishing deal. So they'll get, now they get 75% of the song.
And
the artist gets
it's just,
and the artist get 25.
Yeah,
right?
it's just
not automatically. Yeah,
no,
okay.
no. The writer will get
75,
and the publisher will get less, because over time, because publishing was just made up, right? And it's made up by rich financiers who were like, we need to get some money back, so we'll create this thing called publishing and blah, blah, blah. And so over time, it was seen that you guys aren't doing 50% of the work. How are you getting 50% of my money?
Yeah.
And so now it's split. And what's a regular publishing deal is called a co-pub deal. It's called a co-publishing deal because you're cooperating together. It's two people involved now. It's Aubrey Graham's publishing company, or whatever it was, Roncesvalles. He'll create his own sort of publishing company, but it will be for himself. And the other half is going to be
the other TV, company, or Universal, or so,
yeah. And if you take an artist like Sting, have you heard of Sting, the artist? He's massive. He's sold millions and millions of records. He's got a huge following. The last I left EMI Publishing, we were publishing him, we were down to 5%. But it was because collecting 5% of his millions and millions of dollars is better than nothing. It's a lot of money still. And his lawyers were arguing that, like, look, we don't need you to do any of this stuff. We just need you to go get the money now. We don't need you to go find new songs for him. He's already writing new songs, and he's got enough songs to retire on. We don't need you to exploit it. Everyone knows who Sting is. He's going to sell out stadiums until he dies. You need to do the administration, collection, and we have lawyers for the protection. So basically, we don't need you to we're not paying you more than 5%. And sometimes, like, for Beyonce, that will come even lower, to 3%. But wouldn't you do the work for 3% of Beyonce's writing, right? But then, like, a new writer will come in, a new writer off the block, and they'll start at 25% now. Where they used to start at 50%, now they're, like, down to 25%.
Unless you're big like Beyonce or one.
Unless you're big like Beyonce, then you can get people to do the publishing work, this administration stuff.
But it's still getting
you can do them for doing much less.
3%, but it's still a lot of money.
It's still big.